Assalamualaikum students, this is a video about March 2023 exam paper. There is only one variant in March 2023 exam papers, and that is variant 4.2. Is question 2 of paper 4.2 of February-March 2023. The use of air travel leads to market failure caused by negative externalities. With the help of a diagram, assess the extent to which a government can intervene to correct this market failure. Before watch this video, I request you to watch two videos before you start watching this one. One, that is introductory video, that is about paper 4 essays, in which we have told that out of these 20 marks, 14 marks are for assessment objective 1 and assessment objective 2, which are knowledge, understanding and analysis, and 6 marks are for assessment objective 3, that is evaluation. And this level based marking is used. If a candidate scores level 1 in AO1, AO2 analysis and knowledge, he gets either he gets the marks which are from 1 to 5, level 1, level 2, 6 to 10, and level 3, 11 to 14. And as this question says, use a diagram. With the help of a diagram, unless you make completely accurate diagrams, a candidate cannot be taken beyond level 2. And for evaluation, again 6 marks, and there are 2 levels, level 1, 1 to 3 marks, and if the evaluation is strong evaluation is demonstrated, the candidate may be awarded level 2, and then marks would be between 4 to 6. So for details of this marking, please do watch our introductory video. The other video you should watch before you watch this one is the video of specimen paper question 2. That question is about positive externalities. Now this one, which we are going to do now, is about negative externalities. So quite similar in nature. Of course, the diagrams are quite the opposite, because in one question we were discussing positive externalities, but in the other we are discussing negative. However, the approach is quite similar. So please do watch both videos together to get benefit. Anyway, so first of all, market failure. So market is supposed to be efficient. Market is supposed to allocate resources efficiently, but it fails when it fails to allocate resources efficiently. So failure to allocate resources efficiently is market failure. And either over allocation, if either resources are over allocated or they are under allocated, either a product is overproduced or it is underproduced, and it does not, or it fails to maximize society's welfare. Now there are 4 cases of market failure: merit good, demerit good, 1 case; public good, 2nd case; monopoly, 3rd case; and externalities, the 4th case. So we are talking about externalities over here. So resource allocation is efficient. Now we have given the definition of resource allocation, efficient resource allocation, and that three keywords. 3 keywords. 1, total welfare of the society is maximized. Now that is efficient resource allocation. The 2nd, marginal social cost of the last unit equals marginal social cost of the last unit. Now that is the 2nd keyword. And the 3rd, price equals marginal social cost of the last unit. Now these 3 keywords you must provide whenever you give a definition of efficient resource allocation. Now in the diagram, we can show quantity along x-axis and price along y-axis. Demand curve slopes downward, supply curve slopes upward, and demand curve is marginal social benefit, supply curve is marginal social cost. Equilibrium quantity do show equilibrium quantity, do show equilibrium price, and this is efficient resource allocation. Now at this output of QE, society's welfare is maximized. You may like to take screenshots for your preparation. So one of the cases where market failure occurs is the case of negative externalities, and this is what we are going to study today. Now what are negative externalities? Negative externalities are harmful spillover effects arising from a transaction. There is an economic transaction, there are some buyers, there are some sellers, but a cost of that transaction goes beyond those buyers and sellers and affect those who are neither the buyers nor the sellers. Now that is a negative externality. The private cost of airline includes from the point of view of the airline operator, it includes the cost of the investment in air fleet, maintenance charges, airport fee, fuel expenses. Whereas the external cost of emission through the burning of fossil fuel, airlines are accused of damaging environment and creating noise and air pollution because they burn a lot of fossil fuel. The private cost from passengers' point of view for airline travel could be the fee or the ticket price they pay, and of course the time they take in flying from one destination to another. Social cost. Social cost combines private as well as external cost. So social cost are not external costs. Social costs are private cost plus external cost. And in diagram, we use the marginal word because in economics we make decisions in the margin, and we take the additional unit. We do not compare the total output and the total cost or the total revenue or the total cost. We compare marginal revenue and marginal cost and marginal social benefit and marginal social cost, because decisions will be made in unit wise. We will, instead of I often give this example, how many stories we should build. For example, I'm a building constructor. I'm proposing or I'm thinking about building a high-rise building. How many stories should I build? So I will not say what is the total cost of building, let's say 25 stories, and what is the total revenue from the sale of those 25 stories. I will go story by story. I'll go floor by floor. I'll say first floor, cost of first floor versus the revenue. Then if the revenue is more than the cost, I go for the second, then third, then fourth, then 10th, then 15th, then 20th, then 25th, means increment wise. So decision making is marginal. So in diagram, we use marginal social cost, marginal private cost, marginal external cost. Negative externalities are of two types. Now this is a paragraph which is I am going to do this now. Negative externalities are of two types: production and consumption. Production externalities arise when an externality is taking place because of production of something. Steel mill. Now a steel mill is producing steel, and in the process of producing steel, they are probably damaging the environment and they are creating noise and air pollution. Now that is a production externality. On the other hand, a negative consumption externality that arises when you are consuming something, and that is probably smoking is a great example of negative consumption externality, and that is passive smoking and increased chances of fire. A person who is smoking, damaging his health, that is a private cost, but he is damaging the health of those as well who are sitting near him, and they are passive smokers. That cost is an external cost, and it is an example of negative externality. Now, we are going to make the diagram for negative production externality. When you draw, let me make both diagrams for convenience, but for this question I am only making production externality as the question is about airlines. But I'll make both diagrams. So negative externalities consumption externality, I'll remove this diagram as it is not the part of our assets today, and production externality. This diagram of production externality will use. Now this is the correct diagram we'll use. Quantity, price, marginal private cost lower, marginal social cost higher, and the vertical gap between these two is marginal external cost. Now that is an incomplete diagram. It is an incomplete diagram. We'll complete it soon. Now this is production externality negative, whereas negative consumption externality will be marginal social benefit and marginal private benefit. Just look at this. Marginal private benefit is higher. Marginal social benefit is lower. Smoking. The private benefit, a person thinks that he is actually doing a great thing by smoking or by eating junk food, but when he will take excessive, when he do excessive consumption of junk food, he will get ill, he'll be less productive, he'll be a burden on the resources, the health resources, he'll be a burden on health resources, he'll be a burden on the economy. Marginal social benefit of junk food are less than marginal private benefit. Now in this case, marginal external benefit is negative marginal external benefit. Now these are the two incomplete diagrams for consumption externality and production externality. Now you can take the screenshot so that I can actually remove them and make the diagram which is relevant for this question, and it's also complete one. Now I'll make the diagram for negative production externalities. As I just told you that negative production externality, marginal private cost is lower, marginal social cost is higher, whereas demand curve is showing both marginal private benefit and marginal social benefit, as we are assuming no externalities on the side of the demand. Now if we look at, please do show equilibrium points. If we look at the firm's point of view, firm produces where marginal private benefit of the last unit is equal to marginal private cost. You can actually compare it with marginal revenue and marginal cost. The firm aims to maximize profits. They compare marginal private benefit with marginal private cost. As long as marginal private benefit exceeds marginal private cost, they will produce, as such units raise their profits. However, they will not produce units where MPB is less than MPC, so they will not produce quantity beyond QF, as units beyond QF have lesser MPB but higher MPC. So these units will not be produced. These units will not be produced because these units will decrease profits. However, units between 0 and QF will be made by the firm. From society's point of view, society compares marginal social cost with marginal social benefit. They will produce as long as marginal social benefit is more than marginal social cost. Let me tell you the difference between benefit and welfare. Welfare is different from benefit. Benefit is the utility. Welfare is that part of benefit for which you have not paid a price. Remember, you have done a consumer surplus and consumer producer surplus in AS course. Consumer surplus is that portion of benefit for which consumer has not paid over and above the price, the utility over and above the price. Surplus, the other name of surplus is welfare. So welfare, if I give the definition of welfare in 2 words, I'll say welfare is unpaid benefit, a benefit for which you are not paid. So marginal social benefit, the height of demand curve shows the additional benefit. Marginal social cost shows the additional cost incurred on a unit, and the vertical gap between these two, this vertical gap, this is welfare. The benefit for which you have not incurred a cost, that is welfare. So the benefit total, the marginal benefit is, let's say, A, marginal social cost is B, you have incurred a cost of B to acquire a benefit of A, the gap between A and B is your welfare. So remember, welfare and benefit are not the same things. Welfare and surplus are. Now the quantity which society will produce will be where MSC of the last unit equal MSB of the last unit. Now that is the quantity which society would make. Now, if we compare these two, we can easily see that there is an over allocation or overproduction or over consumption, over allocation of resources. And of course, you can show the prices as well, but showing prices is not that important. More important thing is to show the quantities, because the question is about over allocation. So that's the diagram you will make to show negative production externalities, and as a result of that, there is over allocation of resources. Now, government can intervene to correct this market failure, and one of the policies government can use is indirect taxes. The government can impose indirect taxes to correct this market failure. Now, indirect taxes are financial penalties that raise cost of production and they shift the marginal private cost curve upward. Now, I can make the diagram. Now, this is the diagram. Again, I am making the same diagram we made earlier. Marginal private cost, quantity produced by firms is QF. Marginal social cost, quantity made by society is QS. So we want to take the quantity from QF to QS, because over allocation, we have to avoid this problem, over allocation. One of the ways the government can impose a tax. Now, tax shifts MPC from MPC 1 to MPC 2, which is probably equal to marginal social cost, and that will take the private cost to a higher level, and that will force firm to reduce quantity and bring it closer to social output. And this is what we have written in this paragraph. If you read this paragraph, so that paragraph explains the impact of higher taxes on the production and cost of production and on the production of goods and services. So what do taxes do? Taxes are financial penalty. They raise cost of production, shift MPC upward and bring it closer to marginal social cost, and this increased cost of production reduces output and take it closer to the socially desirable level. However, now it is an evaluative comment. Till now it was analysis. It is evaluation now, and this evaluation I am underlining with red ink. It is difficult to assign an exact monetary value to negative externalities, and therefore governments often fail in deciding the correct amount of tax, and they may end up over-taxing a product, or they may end up under-taxing a product. Now, there is a debate. What is the optimal level of tax on cigarettes? In some cases, people say taxes on cigarettes should be raised to curb consumption. But there is another group which says if you keep on raising taxes on cigarettes, it will encourage smuggling, it will encourage tax evasion, it will encourage informal markets. So do not keep raising taxes on cigarettes. So what is the correct amount of tax? Governments often fail to determine that. And that is government failure. We were solving market failure, and we're solving or trying to solve market failure with the help of the government, but government may also fail in deciding about the correct amount of tax. Another drawback of tax is that the tax is regressive in nature. Poor people are affected more than those who are rich. However, taxes have benefit, and that they generate revenues, and they could be spent on generating goods which have positive externalities like education and health. They can be spent on that. Another evaluative comment. This is another evaluative comment. The effectiveness of tax depends on the PED, and the tax may not be effective in reducing consumption and encouraging production, discouraging production if PED and PES are low. So cigarettes are addictive. A tax on smoking may not be effective. Taxes have another drawback, and that they affect employment, they reduce employment, they reduce output. Now, the purpose of the government of imposing this tax is not to decrease the travel of airlines. The purpose is to decrease the pollution airline operators emit. And purpose is not to discourage the production of steel. Production is not to, the purpose is not to close down factories of steel. The purpose is to reduce pollution. But there is a third party effect of tax as well. Now we said negative externalities are a third party effect of a transaction. taxes also have third-party effects, and that jobs losses. People who are working in a cigarette factory may lose their jobs when taxes on cigarettes are raised. Output of cigarette will go down. Government will not be able to collect taxes on the sale of cigarettes. There could be less profit of distributors, and there could be negative or slow economic growth. To reduce these third-party effects of taxes, the government can use this principle, and this principle is polluter must pay. Polluter must pay means government can impose high taxes on those steel factories which pollute more, and low taxes on those mills which use more environment-friendly production techniques. Now what will happen? Market economy, now market system, the best feature, the best advantage of market economy, that it gives incentives. Now market has failed. We want to correct it now. Correct it through the same advantage, and that is incentive. So if the tax system is such that it is the same for every type of steel mill, it will not give incentive to steel mills to reduce pollution because the tax is on production. Instead of levying tax on production, the government should impose tax on the pollution, amount of pollution. Now if there is high tax on those airlines which have outdated technologies and technologies which pollute more, they should be heavily taxed compared to airlines which have modern, more sophisticated planes and they burn lesser fossil fuel and cause less pollution to the air. There should be less taxes on them. Such a tax system will give incentive to airlines to convert, upgrade their technologies and move from outdated technology to more green and more environment friendly technologies, and that will reduce the overall pollution. And that is the actual reason of government intervention. Government was not intervening to discourage people from flying. Government was intervening to reduce pollution. So tax system should be incentive based. Another strategy which the government can use is tradable pollution permits. Now this is a very famous and popular strategy in airline industry. Now tradable pollution permits, now there are three words: tradable, pollution and permits. Permits means permission and a limit of pollution. An airline operator is allowed to pollute to a certain limit, and that limit can be traded, can be exchanged, can be sold and purchased. So what happens? Those firms which are efficient and they use modern and better technologies and they pollute less than their limits and their permits are unutilized, they can make money by selling those unutilized permits to those firms which are less efficient and polluting more. Now that will give a monetary incentive to both parties. Those which are polluting or can pollute less and those which are polluting more. Those which are polluting more, no, they will have to pay a higher financial cost as they will have to buy a permit in excess of the permit they have already been given. Whereas those which are more environment friendly and which have better technologies have the incentive that they can make money by polluting less. Now again, this is incentive based, and what we are doing, we are not replacing market mechanism or price mechanism, because price mechanism, market forces have a great advantage of giving incentives. What we are doing, we are using steps such as taxes on pollution and not on production, and tradable pollution permits, which are actually incentive based and giving incentive, financial incentive to firms involved to reduce pollution. Tradable pollution permits, the limit of permits can be decreased every year to decrease the overall level of pollution. However, government policies may not be fully effective in bringing the output closer to socially optimal level, as governments often fail and there are governance issues, there are implementation and execution issues. The last paragraph is also the evaluative paragraph, and you can look at this. And tradable pollution permits may not be easily accessible, beneficial for small and large size airlines. Large size airlines are in a better position to acquire modern technology. Small airlines lack resources and they may not be able to benefit from this scheme of tradable pollution permits. Now this concludes my discussion on this essay. I hope you like this video. Please do share it with those who may be interested and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much.